And then she loses a job she so desperately needed because of her Google search. She went from making $200 million to driving for Uber Eats in Las Vegas. And she said her nightstand next to her bed was a cardboard box. Susan Powter was huge in the 90s. She used to scream, "Stop the insanity." Those words were the most powerful words ever.
Show people who you are. The more things you hide, the more people are going to get the wrong impression about you.
Right.
Someone will rise to the top very quickly. They either won't understand, or they'll have the wrong people around them, or they just won't survive some sort of change and they fail to evolve.
Yeah, and that's really sad when that happened. I was fired from a job when they Googled me. I was fired from a job I so desperately needed. Do you know who said that?
Can I take a guess?
Sure.
I think it's Susan Powter.
You are exactly right. Susan Powter. Do you know who she is?
Not really.
Susan Powter was huge in the 90s. She was everywhere. She had her own TV show. She was on every talk show. She was considered the original fitness influencer. She did over $200 million in revenue.
200 million.
200 million. I don't know if you remember who she is. Everything was "Stop the insanity." She used to scream that all the time. And she had really short hair, super short, and it was blonde. So a lot of you watching this might not know who she is, but if you just look up "Stop the Insanity" or Susan Powter, you'll see exactly who she is. But the reason we're talking about her today is those words were the most powerful words ever. I saw a clip of her from the Today Show, and she literally was saying she lost her job she so desperately needed because of her Google search. So let me talk more about Susan and her story.
Please.
When they found her, she has a new documentary coming out this year. It's actually might be out right now or within the next few weeks. She was driving for Uber Eats in Las Vegas.
Okay.
She went from making $200 million to driving for Uber Eats in Las Vegas. And she said her nightstand next to her bed was a cardboard box.
Oof.
Yeah. I was like, what in the heck? Now, in the 90s, I remember seeing her everywhere. I never bought any of her stuff because it just seemed, like gimmicky and all that kind of stuff to me.
Tapes
it was all fitness tapes, and she had a show, and, a lot of people would do the workout on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And, to me, I was more of like go to the gym type person. Yeah. And back then I was doing, different fitness competitions and things like that were fun.
And you were always a self-starter too.
Yeah, I was always a self-starter. And I thought she kind of catered to people who were more overweight, who wanted to work out at home and make it like easier for them. But I knew as soon as I saw this Today Show clip, I knew exactly who she was. And most people did know who she was. Mm-hmm. So her story to me was incredibly interesting because when she's talking about she lost a job she so desperately needed because they Google searched her, I had to see what on earth is out there. Like, what is going on? What happened? Mm-hmm. So her story is, and this is all allegedly, this is what she says. So I don't know exactly, what is true or what is not true, but that she had some bad business deals that she did. And she said she takes accountability for everything that happened to her herself. She said she did not look at any of her bank accounts throughout the years. She didn't really question anything. So the checks and everything that were coming in, whatever they said was coming to her, was what she got. And that was kind of it.
When you say business deals, are you talking about investments or her business deals as in was she signed with someone? Or?
She doesn't elaborate much. Okay. I bought her new book, and I also read her original book called Stop the Insanity. And that was back before, that was when she was famous. Mm-hmm. Not that she's not famous now, but that's when she was, everywhere on TV and all over the place. She doesn't say that much about what happened, which makes me wonder, I don't know. Whatever it is. But if someone never checks their bank accounts or anything like that, that to me that's insanity.
Red flag.
Well, she says stop, everything's called Stop the Insanity. Well, stop the insanity then that you aren't checking your bank accounts or contracts or anything like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. What's done is done. She's already done that. But for the future, any of you are doing anything, of course.
Check your bank accounts.
Check your bank accounts, check your contracts. But the types of things she used to sell, and I remember this was like the craziest thing. I used to see these all the time, and I thought it was so weird. Like back in the 80s and 90s, women what they were portraying to the world was you were supposed to be so skinny, like almost like ridiculously skinny,
Ooh.
right? And I never believed in any of that kind of stuff. I used to work out, eat good, and I was always about being healthy, having a little bit of muscle, and being strong.
Yeah. Well, that's healthy.
That's the way you're supposed to be,
Yeah.
right? So I remember seeing these little things around, and Susan used to sell these in some of her packages, and I thought that this was so weird. And what it is like a fat measure counter, right? So when I saw all this was going on, I knew we were going to do, the story about it.
Mhm.
I was like, I have to buy one of these because I never did. So I have to see what the heck is going on. So I was like, okay, let's check. So we get this in the mail. We're all going around the house, him, myself, and my husband. We're like, what do we have? Do we have any fat here? So then this is what people used to do. They literally would check themselves to see if they have fat. Most of the time, it's just skin. Everyone's supposed to have skin. This doesn't mean that you're fat if there's something that
But it's also, how do you even calculate how much fat just by pinching like some off of someone?
It's
not...
so silly. So back in the day when they're doing infomercials and stuff with all of this, I mean, she sold $200 million of everything that she had. And to me, that was insanity.
Yeah. Well, she would have sold way more if the company she was signed with took some of the profits. She could have been selling $1 billion.
Well, no. She signed with some of the biggest companies in the world. She was with the biggest book companies. She was with the biggest companies for TV and media.
Mhm.
I guess it had something to do around whoever was handling her money. I don't know who that was. And she says that something happened there, but she doesn't elaborate. That aside, what drew me to her story was her saying that she was Googled and lost a job she so desperately needed. So she lost this job, I guess, after a lot of the money stopped coming in.
Mhm.
She had a decent job, and I guess they Googled her because they didn't realize who she was.
Yeah.
So then they Google her and they figured out who she was. And she did have a lot of things to hide in her past. I guess when she was had her TV show, they were trying to hide things from her past. I guess she was did some things or worked some places that people would think, were not the best things to portray. They tried to hide it or whatever. But I didn't see any of that when I Google searched her. So I don't think that was out before. What surprised me the most was the money. Okay, so I'm reading her book and it kind of bounces all around. It doesn't tell me, everything, that's going on. But she had so much money coming in, and then, she lived in, Bel Air and all over the place. And suddenly she went to Hollywood off Wilshire Boulevard, which was less money and less and less. And then she ended up on Boulder Highway in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not all of Boulder Highway, is bad, but a lot of it isn't, the best place to live.
It's not a $200 million
It's not a $200 million. Yes.
Yeah.
So that surprised a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But what was the most amazing thing to me with her search was I found that someone wanted to do a documentary about her. And he literally tried to get a hold of her for over a year, a whole year. And she at first was, I guess she maybe heard something and completely ignored it. And she's driving for Uber Eats. Uber Eats, you're not making that much money. It's great that there's a job like that people can go to quickly and all that. But like you said, it's not $200 million in sales.
Yeah.
But then when he finally got a hold of her, I guess he kept ordering Uber over and over. And
to try
to get her.
Oh, wow.
And he finally got her. So when he first started talking to her, she said she didn't want to do it. And then he somehow convinced her. So then they called, guess who they called? One of the most amazing ladies in the world. Do you know who it was? Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
I love Jamie Lee Curtis. So they called her. That moment, she said she's going to write a check and send it because she wanted to tell Susan's story.
Wow.
And I think that that's great because this is a story that definitely should be heard because this is where, for me, things get wild because I've always been incredibly proactive. So my whole life, I've been an entrepreneur and I'm always thinking about what the next move is because you have to pivot. There's different things that happen in the economy, trends, things that are booming, things that aren't booming.
Of course.
Yeah. So I'm always thinking about, okay, what's the way to stay afloat? That's how I've always been able to do it. That's how most entrepreneurs have always been able to do it. So Susan, she made all of this money. She had bad business deals, but she was big in the 90s. So the internet with e-commerce comes out in the 90s. Actually, 1994 was the first time that anything was purchased retail-wise on the internet. So then came Amazon and then came eBay. So that's 94 and 95. So Susan has all of these, trials and tribulations and things that are happening with the money. There's a lot of things she could have done online, a ton of things. I don't know the whole story. Maybe there's things I missed, or maybe there's things that she didn't put out there of why she didn't keep, reinventing herself or getting herself out there. Maybe she was depressed because she lost a lot of the money. That does happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see it with a lot of different people. Someone will rise to the top very quickly, and then they either won't understand, or they'll have the wrong people around them, or they just won't survive some sort of change, and they fail to evolve.
Yeah. And that's really sad when that happens. I wish I lived in Vegas 25 years ago. I wish I would have, met her then, because I could have showed her, okay, look, this has happened. This is terrible. But let's forget about that, because there's nothing we can do about the past. All we can do is move forward in the future. And she could have done so many different things. Maybe she, if it came to fitness, she could have had contracts where she was exclusive, and she maybe still couldn't do anything it had to do with, workouts or anything like that. But she could have fixed her search, because if she's saying that she lost a job later on she so desperately needed because of her search, there's a million and one things she could have been doing that she could have put out there. She definitely could have started a blog, because if she would have started a blog, she could have started talking about things about her. Again, if she had some sort of confidentiality agreement, nothing about that she would talk about, but talking about herself. I'm Susan. I'm no longer doing this. This is what I'm doing. The world might know who I am. I might have been worth 2 million or whatever, 200 million at one point. I'm not now, blah, 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 blah. Because again, if she would have told the world, look, here I am, maybe she never would have been forgotten about. And I know maybe she kind of wanted to hide away because of, this or that. But when you do that, when you're hiding yourself, it can get to the point where you're up here and then suddenly you're driving for Uber Eats or whatever.
And that's exactly why you talk about authenticity and being your true self. These aren't just words that are like, meant to make you feel good, or meant to make you feel like, I have to be doing this exact thing. It's literally the process. Show people who you are. The more things you hide, the more people are going to get the wrong impression about you.
Right. And then she loses a job she so desperately needed because of her Google search. Mm-hmm. So the first thing she should have done at that point, and even before then, is thinking, how does she fix her Google search? I know she had access to press, news, and media. There's a lot of articles that could have been done about her before. Mm-hmm. I just wish that she would have not gotten to that point. Now, this is where I'm afraid now that could happen. Because she's 68. She said when she was 65, people don't hire anyone over 65. If that's true, that's really sad. But I think people don't get hired as easily as they used to get hired. You know, when I was a kid and I wanted a waitress job, I would walk into whatever restaurant and start working that night if they needed to hire someone. It's not that easy now because everything's done. Send me an email, do this and that. And when that happens, they are Googling that person because they want to see who they are when they're sending a resume. And if there's nothing good out there, you're not going to get even the interview. You're definitely not going to get the job, but you can't even get the interview.
That's why people nowadays, like you said before, you used to be able to walk into an establishment, ask around if somebody needed help, and then you would sometimes even be able to work that night. Whereas now a lot of times people are saying, it's a full-time job trying to find a job.
Well, it is. I mean, there's people that it takes, months and months and months, and it's because how people are disconnected and not connected anymore. In person, if you are, so if I were Susan, this is what I would have done. Definitely created a blog, put video content in there to show people who she was at that time, wrote about different things she would want to do or different things she'd want to be interested in, talk about all of the knowledge and wisdom that she must have had at that time to have made that much money. She wasn't in charge of any of her own money financially, from what she says. And she didn't ask to look at any of the bank accounts or anything like that. So she could have talked about the mistakes that she made. Don't make these mistakes. I mean, the possibilities are endless of what she could have done. But now she's at the stage where she wrote a book. So hopefully she's doing okay from that. It looks like it's self-published. There is press around it, thank the Lord, because Jamie Lee Curtis, one of the greatest actresses in the world, helped her. Hopefully now, whatever money she's making off of that, she's putting into something that's going to help her. I think she said she's still delivering Uber Eats because she said she'll do anything for work. And there's nothing wrong with delivering for Uber Eats. I mean, that's great.
A job's a job.
A job's a job. If anyone needs a job, they take that job.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing that's somewhat off about it is that, someone who did 200 million in revenue, certainly, wouldn't be doing that at that point.
Yeah. I mean, everybody wants to scale, but going from $200 million to going back to Uber Eats is something that I'm guessing she definitely didn't want to do.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm hoping now that she fixes it. I'm also hoping that she will fix her search. There's a lot of press out there that is going to help her because the press, of course, gets shown first. It's high authority. So when you Google her now, there's a lot of different information out there about press. But I'm hoping that she will think to herself what she can do now to get to the next stage. I'd love to help her. I'd love to interview her as well.
I was going to ask you, what do you think she wants to do now as far as a job? Like, do you think she wants to get back into the fitness industry?
Well, she wanted to really stray away from anything that had to do with news and media and TV. Okay. And I think that's why she kind of just went into hibernation. She didn't like a lot of that. I think maybe back then, a lot of things have changed. Now we can sit here and do our own news and media. We don't have to go and ask anyone, hey, do you want to publish my stuff? We're publishing and producing it ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the greatest things ever right now about what's going on at this time is that there are places that are, like YouTube and Instagram.
People can pull out their phone and post a TikTok in seconds.
That's
really
right.
not.
That's right. So there's no excuse for anyone to not be showing the world who they are, especially when they want to get to the next level and the next level and the next level. Think of this.
Okay.
If I, myself, have been an entrepreneur for years, if I did not show the world who I was, how would I have ever got any clients or any of the connections I have of where we make our money?
Yeah, and that's why it's probably not so good when people go into hibernation. I understand it can be like a mode of protection, but
a lot of that is depression, and that said, she probably was depressed. A lot of people would be very depressed if they did that much money, but it didn't seem like it was gone in an instant. It seemed like it was a progression down, and people start to already see that. Okay, this is getting less and less and less. Maybe she thought because she wasn't as financially savvy, if that's a word, that it was going to never end. Because a lot of people, when they make that much money, they always think that the checks are just going to always keep coming in.
Yeah, because I don't know the full story. Did she get very famous and very rich very fast?
It was pretty quickly. It was in the 90s, in the early 90s. And there was infomercials about her everywhere. She was on infomercials. She had her own show. She was everywhere. Like everywhere you saw this lady, and then she'd scream, "Stop the insanity!" So people would you couldn't miss her. To me, it was all kind of gimmicky and whatnot. Sticky, but everyone knew who she was. She was like the original fitness influencer.
Did she wear like the 80s?
She wore the little 80s, yoga pants and the shoes and the whole thing, and everything was all bubbly and, wild. And she was, I guess, overweight at one point and did lose weight, which was very admirable, and then she would work out and show everyone how to do that. But it just, it's just unfortunate. But she lost a job she so desperately needed because of her Google search. Don't let that happen to you. I want everyone to show the world their best self. Don't mess up your first impression, and I can help you do that. And I would love to help you. And if you want to be on the show, because we have our show, Fix Your Search, message me or fill out the form below. We have a Google form, and maybe you will become a cast member. Or if you don't, and we film in Southern California. If you are not in Southern California, we're doing Zoom, and we can help you on Zoom as well.
Yes, please apply for the show. It's absolutely amazing. You're going to learn so much. Can't wait to see you.
And thank you so much for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. And great episode. See you on the next one.